So yeah, the Reef Teach Guidelines. This is like the core values that Reef Teach instills on its visitors. And I'll go through each one of these individually really quickly. So we ask people not to stand on or touch the coral because, like I said, it's very fragile. And at Kahaluu in particular, and I know Wailea is pretty shallow, it's easy to stand up. And sometimes you want to stand up when you're scared or your mask is filled with water, you don't know your gear well. But we have to just tell everybody, if you got to stand up, please look down that you're not standing on coral. Then fish feeding, because fish feeding is not allowed, that's already one reason not to do it. But also, why is it not allowed? Well, introducing a lot of food into the water prevents the fish from eating what they're supposed to. So certain type of algae can overgrow. The fish can become aggressive and bite people. And then the last thing is depending on what you give them, it may not be something that's healthy for them. They can end up getting sick and dying, or just overall not having the right type of nutrition. Turtles need their space, so it's illegal to harass, harm, molest, kill, torture, bind, whatever, a turtle. And so generally what that means is look but don't touch. And even depending on what guidelines you want to set up, you can say how far away people should or should not be. There's no rule specifying the exact distance, but there's a lot of recommendations, meaning like 10 feet or 30 feet or whatever. One thing you can use is for sleeping turtles, the rule of thumb. So if you stick your thumb out like that and you can cover the whole turtle, then you're far enough away. They use that for the monk seal as well. So different activities, breathing on the surface, basking on the shoreline. People often ask if they're dead, but we all know it's just something we normally do, and we can share that with them. Turtles, just quickly, turtles are very, very slow growing and slow to reproduce. So it takes about 25 to 45 years. I know it's a broad range, but it takes a very long time for them to be able to produce young. They face a few different threats. We might not see these so often here, but these tumors on the top here, the fibropapilloma tumors, pretty common on Oahu and Maui, starting to be seen in Hilo. Not very many cases over here at Kona side. But if you see that, it's probably good to report that to maybe Mark Rice or someone who can forward that on to other people. Sunscreen has a handful of chemicals in it that are pretty harmful to coral. They harm coral reproduction, recruitment, and all that. So we like to ask our visitors to put sunscreen on about 15 minutes before going in the water, so that it stays on their skin and doesn't go on the reef. Can also recommend reef safe sunscreen. So when we sell sunscreen at our concession, and it's coral safe, very, very water resistant, so it stays on their skin. Leaving things where it is important, so we want this to remain natural environment. If you go to the park, you're not picking all the flowers and knocking over the trees, or pushing the birds out of their nests. So please don't do the same thing here, right? And then lastly, in order to keep our beaches clean and keep our marine environment clean, we want to make sure all the trash gets into the trash cans and not on the beach. I know there's trash everywhere, but fish eat this stuff. They think it's food. It gets stuck in their stomachs, and then they starve to death on a full stomach because they don't have enough room for food. Do you guys have trash cans at Pontiac Cove? Dumpster. Okay. Is that county or is it you guys?
County.
Okay. Well, good. At least a lot of the parks in New York don't have trash cans in order to encourage people to pack it out, but they just leave it on the ground. So it's got to have somewhere to put it. Let's skip that. How do we know Reef Teach works? So we have our human use data, how many people come to the beach, but then we do a study to see the people who have been taught versus the people who have not been taught any reef etiquette. And we see a very clear difference in the amount of time they spend standing on coral, or how many times they even step on or kick coral. The reason you see such a close comparison there with stepping and kicking is oftentimes they just still don't know what they're doing when they're snorkeling, and will walk around and then start going, and walk around and start going. They're not trying to harm anything, but they unfortunately are in the process. just going to give sort of a shout out to our citizen science program. So this is something that we may want to start with you guys a little bit farther into the future. It's a shoreline water quality monitoring program. We take samples twice a week from 6 sites along our bayfront and store that data on an online server, which I think you guys are also going to become part of that as well. So, keep that in mind for the future. And then, yeah, I guess that's it. So.